Hi guys, bringing you another short one today, and it is a bit of an older one, and yeah, I don't know. Okay, so it's the 10th of August 1948, and we are at Our Lady of the Seven Donners Church in Botanic Avenue in Glasnevin on the north side of Dublin. This is also known as the Wooden Church. It has now actually been rebuilt, but that's what it was called. It was a cute little church. So it's the late afternoon, and 83-year-old Mary Gibbons has arrived at the church. She is a devout Catholic. She is there every day to say her prayers. She goes up to a pew near the front, near the altar, and kneels to pray. And when I say devout, like devout, she's there 30 minutes, still praying, still straight in, and she hears the door open and footsteps. But again, she's in her prayers, so she doesn't look, she doesn't turn around. And all of a sudden, she is hit in the head. She turns, and there's a young woman holding a hammer. She's hit a second time, and then just as the woman is about to hit her a third time, she manages to grab her arms to keep her up away from her. They struggle a bit, and then Mary manages to run. And as she's running down the aisle to get away, the other woman is running after her. She's screaming, and just as she gets to the door, the other woman catches up with her and hits her again over and over. People outside can hear the commotion, and a man tries to open the door to come in, but as he gets the door sort of opened, the young woman pushes herself up against the door. And so there's a bit of a struggle here, but the man is bigger and he's stronger, and he manages to finally force the door open. He can see kind of what's going on, and he manages to wrestle the hammer off the young woman. Sergeant Joe Turner would receive a call at Whitehall Garda Station just after 5 p.m. When he arrives a few minutes later, Mary is sitting on the steps in front of the church, and she's being comforted by a man. There is clearly blood flowing from her head, and the man gives the sergeant the hammer. She then begs the police officer not to leave her. So he took her statement, and then he goes to the other woman who is being held. Now, when I first read this, I thought as in she was being held, holding someone. No, being restrained by the man who was a butcher. Actually, he was the one who had forced open the door, and so she's actually being restrained, and she is 27-year-old Mary Agnes Daly. Now, typical Ireland, everyone's called Mary. We can't have two Marys in the story, so the good woman, the 83-year-old, is Mary, and we're going to call the bad 27-year-old woman Daly. It's just easier. So Sergeant Turner then takes her account of what happens. She basically says that when she went into the church, there was the woman sitting in the pews, and that she then went over to do the signs of the cross or something. So basically had her back to her. And she said she could hear kind of movement or rustling of bags. And that when she turned around, the 83-year-old was making off with her bags down the aisle. And that she ran after her to be like, no, they're my bags. And that the 83-year-old got a bit rough, Mary got a bit rough with her. And they were both pulling at the bags. And she says that she had a hammer in a bag that she bought at Woolworths the week before. And it was falling out of the bag, and so that she grabbed it. And she said just to get the woman away from her, she hit. She said, I don't even know where I hit. I just hit to get her away from me. Quote, I was afraid she'd kill me. An ambulance would arrive and take Mary to the Mater Hospital. In today's situation, if that's what was happened, if an ambulance had been called immediately, that person would then be taken to hospital to be treated, and the Gardaí would go there and take their statements or whatever. Why is an 83-year-old pensioner being allowed to just sit outside in the cold with blood pouring from her head? Turner would go into the church to examine it, and he would see a trail of blood leading up the aisle nearly all the way to the altar. Mary was in critical condition. She had been hit in the head at least 15 times with a hammer. She had a black eye. She obviously had bruising and stuff, but thankfully she didn't have a fractured skull or anything like that. So the following day, a Wednesday, a special sitting, a court sitting, was held in the hospital room. All bandaged up, Mary said the attack was completely unprovoked. She did not know the other woman and could not think of a reason for her to attack her. When she was asked about Daly saying that Mary had been in her bags, she furiously denied this, no. Daly's solicitor would apply for bail on compassionate grounds, basically saying that she was a young mother and that she had a baby at home and no one to look after him. She was, quote, a respectable lady who had a baby. Inspector McCready would object to bail, saying that her sister was already looking after the baby. Justice O'Flynn would hold her on remand. On Monday, they met again, and the charge of causing grievous bodily harm with the intent to murder was placed upon Daly. Look at me getting confused with my own story. And the case was adjourned to the following Monday. However, Mary Gibbons would die before the Monday came, and so the charge was now upgraded to murder. On the 10th of November, the case would come to trial at the Central Criminal Court. In the meantime, Daly had obviously been assessed, and she was declared sane. The defence was still that Mary Gibbons had attacked Mary Agnes Daly. Daly was 5'2" and real petite, whereas the 83-year-old pensioner was taller and broader, so that they were trying to make it be so it was possible for her to attack her. They would call their expert witness, Dr. McGrath, who examined Daly's hands and said they were far too weak, small to carry out this attack. He said that her right hand could barely hold the hammer. So there were no witnesses to the actual attack. People had said that they could hear the struggle going on inside, and that they could hear someone screaming, "She's trying to kill me," but they couldn't tell which woman said it. I'm just going to read a statement from Daly. Okay, so she basically says that she heard the noise, looked around, and the pensioner was running off with her bags. "I was mesmerised for the moment. I jumped up and grabbed her by the arm, and I said, 'My handbag.' I thought she had made a mistake. She ignored me altogether, and I thought she was deaf. The woman turned around, and she either tried to hit me in the face or pull my hair. She did pull my hair. I then caught her around the wrist with my left hand. I shouted, 'Help!' and the woman spat at me. The shopping bag was then coming undone, and the things in it were falling out as we struggled around in circles. The woman seemed to be very strong. There was a hammer in the bag which I bought in Woolworths a week ago, and the heavy end had fallen out at the end. The woman let the bag go and grabbed the hammer out of the bag. I was getting frightened. I thought she must be a mad woman. I called 'help' again, as I thought she was going to fling the hammer at me. I then caught the hammer and took it from her. She came at me as if she was going to scrape me or something. The woman's eyes were dilated. She was vicious looking. I struck her on the right arm with a hammer. She still seemed to come for me, and my bag was still on her left arm. We were then somewhere near the back seat, and she screamed viciously. I gave her a blow of the hammer on the head as she was still clutching me. The blow put her off for a minute. Then I tried to get out the door. I could not, as the woman was leaning against it. I kept shouting for my husband and for help. I thought I heard footsteps outside, and someone tried to open the door from the outside. I gave the woman another blow of the hammer on the head. I did not mean to hit her on the head. I did not know where I was hitting her. I hit her to get rid of her. The woman then caught the hammer, and she tried to pull it from me. I also pulled a hammer, and I got her away from the door, and we both fell to the floor. When the prosecution asked Daly, "Do you always carry a hammer in your bag?" she said no, that she had bought it the week before from Woolworths, and that she had just put it in her bag that morning to get it out of the way. This was the prosecution's argument. Daly was in financial trouble. She lived on Botanic Road with her husband and baby. Their landlady, Kathleen Short, would say that they were, quote, troublesome tenants. She also said that she didn't want kids in the premises and that they had a baby, so I don't know if it was a case, obviously, that they'd already been there and then she got pregnant and all this. And she said that the rent was always late. So many times, so in fact, that she served them notice. Daly would later give her some of the rent, but Kathleen said that on the advice of her solicitor, she was told not to take it. Obviously, this case then came to court or whatever, and an order was put in place to pay the rent and then pay back the arrears. So the couple were ordered to pay £3 and 10 shillings every Wednesday. The previous Wednesday, the rent was paid, but a priest would say that a lady, unknown to him, would come to the church and beg for help, that she needed money, and he gave her £3 10 shillings. Daly would argue that she had had £5 in her purse. However, the purse was not at the church, and it didn't go to the garda station after either, so it magically disappeared with the £5. So the prosecution basically put it forward to the jury that Daly had gone to the church with the hammer to possibly break open the collection boxes, the poor boxes, because this was a common kind of thing at the time that people would do. But that possibly, when she arrived and she saw, you know, the pensioner sitting there, that it was an easy target. The judge would direct the jury to come to a verdict of guilty. I don't like this. This happens a lot in cases, and I don't like it. The jury should be, and it happens, yeah, they should be getting to decide these things themselves. The judge should not be interfering, and this has happened in cases like. She was sentenced to hang. She would appeal this, and not surprisingly, especially because of her gender, it was commuted then to life imprisonment. She would serve 7 years in prison and 10 years in a convent. I've spoken about that before, how like they would send them off then from prison to convents. After that, I don't know what happened to her. So guys, that is the case of the two Marys. Let me know if you think Daly's story was plausible. That this little old 83-year-old pensioner was, well, she wasn't little, this broad old pensioner was trying to attack her, and she had to use a hammer to defend herself. I don't know, I just don't know why anyone walks around with a hammer in their bag. Like, I keep a lot of crap in mine, but a hammer is not one of them. So just kind of leave it there. Let me know what you think of the video. Like, subscribe, all that jazz. And we shall see you in the next video. Thanks.